Who do you have for Charlotte? They were kind
I
of
have
tough. Or
Terry
was
Rose.
this easy for you? Oh, it was easy for you.
No, they were really hard. I had PJ Washington at first because I was going to try to make a case that just a sort of big guy that can stretch a little bit has value, but there just wasn't a lot of ammo for that when I looked deeper at the profile. So it's Terry Rozier, and the idea of him being underrated is I feel like at least maybe I'm just telling on myself. I had this idea that he's really a sixth man on a good team or a decent team. Like that's kind of the role that he ought to be playing. Um, but I think the more you think about it, look at like he was a really key guy on the sort of several versions ago of a Celtics team that made a deep playoff run. He was kind of in charge of that deep. I think it was a conference finals run.
Yeah.
Um, and so start there, and then you look at the statistical company he keeps, right? So we're cherry picking, but that's how you do this. 18 points a game and 38% from three for 3 straight years. The other guys that have done that are Cat, Kyrie Irving, and Zach LaVine. So you've got volume, you've got like pretty high volume stretch. He's a decent pick and roll ball handler that actually averages more points per possession on those than LaMelo does. So that's kind of compelling that he's more than just like, your chucker or your spot up guy. And he also has the highest average matchup difficulty on the Hornets, which like eventually LaMelo, I think, should be the guy that's handling the toughest opponent matchup. But right now it's Rozier. So in addition to like pretty legitimate, offensive production company around the league, he's basically their most important backcourt defender too. So I think that takes him for me like way beyond this guy is a spark plug six man Lou Williams, several years ago type. I think Rozier's just actually like a quality to well above average starter, and I don't know if most people think of him that way.
The Hornets paid him like one. And I think that caught people off guard when he got that extension
Yeah,
this past summer. But you pay for what has been, and especially you look at what he was able to do last year, not as incandescent this year. He started off a little slow, but just 37.8% shooting on high volume from deep is really important. So I still think it should be PJ Washington, by the way. I just
okay.
feel like
Tell me.
because Charlotte has put him in this just weird position where he's basically a center, but that's not what he should be playing. There's a lot of stuff like he's not spectacular on offense, but he's also kind of plug and play there. And he's not going to be like an actual great defensive center. They're getting, I wouldn't say slammed. They're like in the 35th percentile of defensive efficiency when he's at the five. And those lineups with him, to me, like, yes, they're not going to rebound really well. They seem like they foul a ton, but they just always tread water enough to where some of the matchups he goes up against, some of what he's tasked with doing when he is the five or when he just is playing with Bridges, him and Miles Bridges is the two headlining front court players. He picks up a lot more slack than I think people believe there, or at least credit him with. So I still think it's him. That being said, this team was super tough, and I think Rozier is like a totally fine answer as well.
Yeah, actually, I mean Washington for sure. Like to your point, when he does play center, you give away like a little bit defensively, but not as much as the narrative, quote unquote, would suggest. And the gains are super obvious. Like when they spread the floor, like you said, the Hornets get to the line way more often when Washington's at the five because like you just have to have everybody out of the lane because he will shoot it and he's a threat to make it. And their offensive efficiency goes up by like 5 points, and it's basically been that way for a couple years now. So yeah, he's definitely a valuable guy.